So here we've got a cross-sectional cutaway of a typical frame house. It's got 2x4 walls, 2x8 rafters, but the part we're very interested in is actually down here under the floor, and this is the crawl space area. And granted, it's to scale, so it's a little bit smaller, but it's got all the parts of a typical crawl space. In this case, we've got two different types of foundation wall, and there's lots of different ones that are out there, but these are two very common systems. This is a concrete block, and this over here is an insulated concrete form system where the foam is actually the formwork. The concrete gets poured in once those forms are set and everything is bonded together as one piece. It's a great system. It air seals, it insulates, it works very well. You see that more and more nowadays on new construction. But this here is more typical to retrofit construction, and in some parts of the country it's still very common to use concrete block. And so on an older house, and even some of the houses here in Fairbanks where it's very, very cold, you'll see an uninsulated block foundation, and you'll see a couple of courses of block exposed on the outside, and there's no insulation on the inside either. Well, you're constantly losing heat through this block because it has virtually no insulating value. You've got a couple different ways you can approach the insulation. In most cases, the safest approach is going to be to insulate from the outside. Cover this block up with foam board, spray foam, any type of insulation that's rated for below grade and has a good moisture tolerance. And typically your options are one or of several different kinds of foam board or a high density spray foam. The idea is if you insulate on the outside, all of this block that's exposed in the crawl space inside now is the same temperature as the house. Ideally, this crawl space will be heated, it will be ventilated, and this block will stay warm so it won't attract condensation. So in new construction, you've got the foundation already dug out. It's pretty easy to put that foam board on there. But in a retrofit, it can be a lot more difficult. You may have sidewalks, parking lots, things like that that prevent you from putting that insulation in from the outside, or it may be just too expensive to dig it all up. At that point, you can insulate the crawl space from the inside, use the same types of insulation. You can also use an encapsulated fiberglass, which is fiberglass in a factory sealed plastic bag that goes against this. The idea is you want to basically get continuous insulation covering this block, and you want to seal the joints really, really well. When you insulate on the inside, this block is very, very cold. If it's 40 below outside, this block right here is going to be 40 below as well. What that means is that any air inside this crawl space that leaks through any joints in the insulation will reach this block where it will condense, and you could have a water and a moisture issue back there. The same rules that apply to insulating a block wall on the inside also apply to this rim joist area up here. Just like the block will be very, very cold, this plywood here is also exposed to the outside. It will be very, very cold. So whatever insulation you choose to put in here must not allow air to pass through it, needs to be well sealed. Two popular choices are one of several types of foam board or a high density spray foam insulation. It will insulate this and seal it very well. Sometimes what you see though, especially on older houses, is if there's any insulation in here, it might be some fiberglass that's kind of stuffed in here like this. Sometimes there's actually some in the floor too. This is all well and good if things stay dry, but if you've got a moisture problem in the crawl space, what happens is this will be very cold and air travels right through this fiberglass, and so all of a sudden that air reaches all the way to the back here, wood hits that cold plywood, and all of a sudden the moisture in that air starts to condense on this plywood. A lot of times this area doesn't dry out very quickly. That moisture stays there and you have problems with mold and rot starting in this area if it goes unnoticed. You could rot out a floor system in fairly short order.